Say hello to my subscribers right there.
We part of the company. We part of that guy right there. It's the best mechanic there.
Yeah, now he's an influencer in YouTube.
Serious. That's one of the best mechanics D&D.
What's up, my guys? This is Holmes Law on another video. Thanks for stopping by and watching. Today we're gonna get into basically how to build conduit supports out of Unistrut. Now, most of you probably know how to build racks already for your conduit. This is going to be a little bit more tailored to, apprentices and guys that are just starting out on the trade, or maybe you just started working in commercial work or whatever the case may be. Maybe you've been working in residential and you've never really done, commercial work or industrial work. Well, I'm going to touch upon how to build your conduit supports with Unistrut. Not only conduit supports, but I'm going to show you a lot of things that you could do with it. Okay, maybe mounting disconnects, panels, pull boxes, whatever the case may be. Okay, I'm going to show you, I took a lot of video clips at work as well. So I'm going to be showing you, a lot of the stuff that we do in commercial work. Okay, this is going to be a few, I'm going to have to break this up into maybe a few videos, only because it might get pretty long. So I'm not sure how many parts just yet, but what I am going to tell you is that in this part, I'm going to introduce you into the materials that you're going to be using for your conduit supports, using Unistrut. And hopefully we can get started into, I can show you how to start, actually fabricating your conduit supports out of Unistrut. Now, in the trade, where I'm from in New York, we call it kindorf. We can call it, Unistrut. It's also known as, quick strut, super strut. I mean, basically, these are all the brand names, of, the Unistrut. These are basically all just brand names: quick strut, super strut. I mean, I've seen a lot of those names. Basically, I just call it Unistrut. Okay, if you know another name, put it down in the comment. Please share it with us. When I started my career, I used to call it kindorf. Now, with that, let's get started. So, basically, this is your regular 1 5/8 Unistrut, okay? Basically, you have different types. This is your 3/4 Unistrut, okay? This is an 1 5/8, all right? Now, basically, you can get them in different types of metals or whatever the case may be. You can get them in stainless steel. This is just plain. Basically, in commercial, this is what we're going to be using. Unless we're using it outside, we'll use some stainless steel. Other than that, this is what we basically use on your everyday job. Okay, you also have Unistrut that has just regular holes, regular round holes. These are called the elongated holes. You have ones that have even wider holes as well. Okay, you have also, like I said before, ones that just have regular holes. Okay, now your regular 3/4 kindorf, basically, I mean, you really can use it for your smaller conduits. Anything from 3/4 up to maybe even 2 inch. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've used we ran 4 inch before on this. I mean, it all depends on the situation. Sometimes we'll have double racks, and we'll need to actually keep them really close together and tight. We'll put an 1 5/8 on the bottom rack, and maybe we'll do a 3/4 on the top rack, and so forth. Anyway, let's just keep it moving. I'll explain all that in detail later on. Like I said, I took a lot of video clips from work to show you guys some of the work that we do and how we put these racks together. Okay, this Unistrut is very helpful because you can actually build on it, and I mean, you can it's amazing what you can do with this Unistrut. You can build upon it, and it's very sturdy and very strong, steel. So with that said, I just wanted to show you a little bit of the material that we actually will be using to build this stuff. Now, let me move this aside. With kindorf, you're going to be seeing most of the time, 80% of the time, you're going to be using what's called all thread or threaded rod. Okay, you have your 3/8, which is what I'm holding here in my hand, which can basically handle almost anything, even 4-inch. Okay, I like to use this though, 1/2 inch, when I'm dealing with 4-inch conduit, 3-inch conduit, and we're running a lot of them on one rack. I like to use 1/2 inch. It's a lot stronger, and your rack won't be as, how would I say it, as shaky. This 3/8 is kind of like it kind of bends easy, is what I'm trying to say. So I like to use 1/2 inch when I'm running 4-inch conduit, or 3-inch, or when I have a whole lot of conduits on one rack. I like to use 1/2 inch, okay? But with that said, 3/8 does work as well. It's pretty strong, okay? Now, let's keep moving. This here is what you call a square washer, okay? These are mainly used when you're building your rack, okay? So, square washer. Basically, this is gonna go on the top part of your kindorf. Let's call this the opening, okay? And this is gonna be the bottom. This is the top, this is the bottom of the kindorf. This would go on the top part of your kindorf, and your all thread or threaded rod would go through like such, okay? And you would put a nut on top to lock it down. The reason why we use this square washer is because sometimes this gets a little shaky, and this kind of holds it in place and makes it like all together. When you put the nut and the square washer and the all thread and you lock it down, it becomes one strong piece, you know what I mean? And it works, it's a very good rack, well built rack when you're using this. And it also saves you time and frustration of having to actually thread and tighten up the nut on the inside. Anyhow, let me keep it moving. I'll give you an example after I introduce some of this material to you. Okay? This is another version of this square washer. Okay? This is what you call a saddle washer. All right, it basically does the same purpose, you know what I mean? But I like it a lot better because it gives you more room. It's a lot narrower, okay? And it actually, as you can see, it saddles the kindorf, okay? It actually saddles around it. So it kind of like secures it. Together with a nut on top, or a washer and a nut on top, I mean, it's a very secure, system. Very good way to fabricate a rack, okay? And next, what you're gonna see a lot in the trade is a spring nut, okay? This happens to be a 1/2 inch spring nut with a 1/2 inch rod, twirl it on, and it's a spring nut. How do you use this? I'm gonna show you. So, let's just say you have your spring nut mounted onto a wall, okay, facing you, vertical, okay, it's facing you. Let's just say this is the wall, okay, and it's upright. What you're gonna do is you can place this spring nut wherever you need it, okay, like such. And now you have somewhere where you can actually put your bolt to, okay? Now let's just say you wanted to mount your panel on top of it. Boom, you mount your panel. Let's just say this is a this is a bolt, and you bolt it down on top of your kindorf. Okay, and that secures it. When you secure the bolt, what this does is this pulls it towards the actual kindorf and it locks it in. Okay, it's not going anywhere. All right. Now also, this, when you're tightening it, let me get this out. When you're tightening it, okay, it actually locks in. So as you're tightening it, it's locking in. It won't go anywhere. Okay? But if you reverse it, then it'll loosen up. So if you can see, one way is actually beveled and the other way it's straight. So it'll lock in place that way. And it has these ridges, if you can see. It has these ridges on the inside there. What those do is they actually catch onto the inside here. That's where it actually catches into. So it doesn't go anywhere. You see what I'm saying? Well, that's what a spring nut is, and it comes in all sizes. 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, whatever the case may be. Get those sizes, memorized, because you're gonna be dealing with those a lot. Mostly what I deal with in my trade is 1/2 inch and 3/8. And 3/8 is like the go-to size most of the time. Like 80% of the time it's the go-to size, for almost anything. Okay, 1/4 inch, honestly, I have not used 1/4 inch spring nuts, they also have threaded rod in 1/4 inch. I have not used 1/4 inch in a very long time. Not since I've been used, I think the last time was when we were doing residential apartments. We did racks with 1/4 inch threaded rod, and that was for like, small MC feeders, that we were running. But other than that, I have not touched, 1/4 inch all thread in a long time. But not saying that you won't. I just want you to know all the sizes that they have, In the electrical trade, I don't think you'll go farther than 1/2 inch. I don't think you'll go to 5/8 or anything like that. I mean, you might, if you have to mount something very heavy. But other than that, I think 1/2 inch will pretty much take care of all of the equipment that we're working with. So, moving forward, how do you actually mount this kindorf to, let's just say, a wall? How do you mount it to the ceiling, or whatever, to the floor? Okay, now you have two options. Well, there's more than that, but these two options are the ones that I use most of the time. Almost 90% of the time, you're gonna use this. Okay, you're gonna use drop-ins. You have your 3/8 drop-ins and you have your 1/2 inch drop-ins. Okay, your 3/8 drop-ins, pretty much handles your 3/8 rod, and you have your 1/2 inch drop-in that pretty much, of course, handles your 1/2 inch rod. Okay, now if you wanted to hang your rods up in the ceiling so that you can make a rack, okay, you would use either or. Now how this works is, okay, for 3/8 you're gonna use a 1/2 inch masonry drill bit. For the 1/2 inch drop-in, you're gonna use 5/8 masonry drill bit. Okay, after you're done drilling your hole, you have to actually hammer. There's a piece inside that's gonna hammer it, that you want to hammer, and it'll expand this so that it can actually lock into the hole that you just drilled. If you can actually, I'm not sure if you can see that. Hold on. There's a metal piece inside there that when you hammer, it'll expand this and it'll lock it in place. Okay? You can do it two ways. Manually with an actual pin that you can get with the drop-ins, or you can just, since you have the hammer drill with you already, you can actually get an old masonry drill bit that's thin enough to get inside here, okay? And you can actually just hammer it in with your hammer drill, okay? Now I advise you, when you do this, make sure that you hammer it in nice and good too. You don't need to go overboard and go crazy, but you do want to hammer it in and make sure that it's nice and tight, all right? This is one option, drop-ins. It works well. Oh, also, these are only going to be good to you if the surface that you're drilling in is a solid surface, okay? Like ceilings, like floors, okay? Some walls are solid, okay, too, as well, and you can use it. You do not want to use this in cinder block or brick, okay? No good. That wall is too hollow for that. We have something for that, and I'm going to show you what that is next. Okay, so keep that in mind. Drop-ins, solid surfaces only. Okay, mostly in ceilings you can use them. You can use them on the floor as well. Like I said, if you use them on the floor, you want to make sure that when you drill, you clean out that hole nice from all that debris. And after it's actually installed, you want to keep that debris away from there as well. You don't want any dirt in there, or your bolt or thread won't go in as easy. Okay, next you have your expansion shield. Okay, this is good. This will work on cinder block, brick, whatever the case may be. This is for 3/8. Okay, this is for 3/8 threaded rod or bolt or whatever the case, whatever you want to use, bolts, threaded rod. Okay, this is for 3/8. The bit you're gonna use for this is gonna be a 3/4 bit, masonry. Okay, now in order for you have to know this too. There's a side that has threads, okay, on it, and then there's the side that has no threads on it, as you can see. Okay, I hope you can see. Let me zoom in here. Okay, so if you can see that this side here has threads. Alright, you can barely see that. Alright, I apologize. This side here has no threads. It's plain. It's a smooth surface, no threads. The side with no threads is going to be facing you. The side with threads is the way that you want to push that into the hole that way. Okay, so that the side that's smooth, that doesn't have any threads, is facing out of the hole. So the way the bolt goes in, it goes through the smooth surface first and catches onto the threads. Okay, as it catches onto the threads and it's into the hole, this is going to expand. Okay, this will expand and it'll push in and it'll get thicker. Okay, and that's how that locks in. And this is good for like cinder block, hollow surfaces or whatever the case may be. It can also work. This will also work in solid surfaces too. Okay, it's for both. It works. It can work in both. Solid, hollow, whatever the case may be. It'll work in both. Okay, drop-ins won't. Now, what you do want to do though is, if you're using this with all thread and you're putting it into the wall, and you have it in the wall and you're putting your all thread on, okay, and it's not a bolt and it's all thread, okay, sometimes it gives you a problem, okay, because the all thread will just keep threading through. Once you get your all thread in to a certain length inside, you'll have a nut on this side, okay, with a washer. You'll have to hold the threaded rod and tighten your nut down so in order for this to expand. Alright, but with a bolt you won't have that problem. As soon as you just tighten up the bolt, it'll take care of itself. Okay, that's only when you're using a threaded rod. It tends to give you a little problem. It won't actually lock in place unless you're holding the actual threaded rod and tightening the nut at the same time. All right, little tip for you. Next, okay. All right. Next, couplings. Okay, these are threaded rod couplings. All right. Let's just say you want to make a threaded rod longer than what it is, okay? Let's say you got a 6-foot threaded rod and you need to make a 12-foot rack, a rack 12 feet from the ceiling down, okay? You have to add 2 pieces together. You would do it with a actual threaded rod coupling. You have these in 1/4 inch, 3/8, you have them in all sizes, okay? So basically what you're gonna do is, the way you build this, you don't want to just put a threaded rod coupling and then add another piece to the other side. What you want to do is you want to use an actual nut first, okay? You want to use a nut. You want to put your coupling on, okay? And same thing. You want to put your next threaded rod, okay, but with a nut as well on the top, so that you lock them in place, and you want to tighten them up good, all right? So you actually lock it in place and nothing is going to loosen up or go anywhere, okay? If you want to, for added measure, you can put on, a lock washer in between there too, but it's not really necessary, okay? Which brings me to lock washers, okay? These are lock washers. Okay, put this down. This is a lock washer. All right, it prevents the actual nut from loosening up. Good to use anywhere where there's a lot of vibration or whatever the case may be. If you want to put it on for added measure, doesn't hurt. It's only another step, and it definitely secure you from anything loosening up. All right, now. Basically, the way you want to do this is, let's just say you have, a surface that you're going to, you would do it, this is how you would put that together. Actually, you would go something like this, okay? Nut, lock washer, tighten it up, and nothing's going anywhere. The nut will not loosen up at all, okay? So that's how you would use your lock washer. Alright, just a couple of materials that I wanted you to see. Alright, so what we have next here, this is another version of your saddle washer, okay? As you can see, it's a saddle, it kind of like a flat washer with a saddle washer mixed together, okay? It sits over your kindorf, just like that. It's a washer, basically, same thing, nothing new. Basically, just so that you can have your, you could put your rack together. See, I have another one. So basically, you would put your rack together with this saddle washer, just like so. Obviously, I'm missing the nuts here on the top and on the bottom. And basically, you put your conduit here, okay? That's basically it. Now, I'm not showing you this, but let me actually build you one now. Okay, I would do this. This is how I would do it. I would still put a washer on top of that. It's just a habit. Okay. Then I would grab another washer on the bottom. On the bottom, you don't have to worry about putting a square washer, although you can if you want to. And then a nut, okay? Hold think these threads are a little, oh, no, there we go. Okay, so basically, that's how you would put that together. Obviously, you would have to tighten that up more. Okay, and let me just tighten this up a little more. There you go. That's how you would put that together. Okay, round washer on the bottom, nut. If you want to use a saddle washer on the top or a square washer on the top, which is this, and then a nut, and that locks it in place and it makes it sturdy. You know what I'm saying? Once you tighten it up, it makes it nice and sturdy and strong. Okay, you would do the same thing on the other side here, and you have yourself a rack. Okay, and you could do the same thing with 3/8. A half-inch threaded rod if you want to. Okay, it all works basically the same. The saddle washer, square washer, whatever the case may be. Also, let me tell you, to do the rack, you don't necessarily need to use a square washer, a saddle washer, or anything like that. You can also just go and use your round washer inside with a round washer on the bottom and a nut on the inside and a nut on the bottom, and that'll work. Excuse me. That'll work as well. So there we go, and that'll work as well too. Basically, that is what it would look like. Okay, you would have a round washer inside, a round washer on the bottom. Okay, obviously tighten it up. Okay, and that's what it would look like. Although I don't really like to make racks this way. There you go, you can see that better. I don't like to make racks this way. I guess sometimes if I really need the added space, or basically if I messed up and I cut the kindorf too short, actually there's no real reason why you would have to do it this way. If you need the space over here, because don't forget, the square washer does take up a lot of space on the surface. Okay, so you only have this, you have to move your conduit over. You can't actually put it right on top because your strap won't fit on top. Okay, let me show you what I mean by that. Your strap, this is a kindorf, this is an actual conduit support strap, all right? A Unistrut strap. So it wouldn't let me go, as far as where the square washer is. Okay, but if we're doing it this way, then I can bring my conduits all the way to where the threaded rod is actually. Okay, but if you measure right and you actually plan it out, that wouldn't be a problem. But some people are used to doing it this way, as well. They don't really use square washers. I don't believe there's any wrong way to do this. You know what I mean? But I think it's more secure and it looks better when you're using the square washers. Okay, and for the most part, if you're working with me or whatever the case is, I expect you to use the square washers, unless we don't have the material. But yes, I think square washers or saddle washers are a better way to go. Okay, so we've touched upon all that, spring nuts, all the material here. Let's get into actual, the brackets that you can use with this kindorf. There's so much that you can do with actual Unistrut. See, I call it kindorf, Unistrut, there's so many names that you can go by. Okay, let's get rid of some of this. Now, with this kindorf, you can actually build so much. You can actually build this kindorf, and you can build it vertical by placing this L bracket on the floor, using a drop-in or an expansion shield, double expansion shield, bolting it to the floor, down with a bolt. As maybe this is a bolt, okay? You would bolt it down like so, okay? And now you can have a vertical unistrut going vertical. Let's just say you want to build it, and you don't have a wall. You can build 2 of these, and now you can actually build your wall. Build an actual support for a disconnect, okay, with your L brackets, all right? There's also something else that I don't have. It's actually a post base, okay? It's a big square base, all right? And it has a spot where you can actually insert your kindorf and bolt it into that base, and it's a lot more secure than this L bracket, okay? But yeah, so there's so much that you can actually do with these L brackets and unistrut. All right. You also have, this would be, you have a 5-hole L bracket. Okay. You also have this, which is a 3-hole L bracket, but you have, as you can see, only 1 hole on one of the sides, and that's, it's in particular in case you want to just mount it like so, okay? And maybe you want to build something like that, okay? That's what that would be for, You want to take this unistrut in this direction, all right? You can do it like so, all right? Now, the proper way to use these, all right, is this way. Okay, that's the proper way to use it. I've seen people mount them like this, putting it on the back. It's not the right way, but I guess you can use it that way if there's a certain situation that you need to. But the right way to use it would be this way, okay? And you would bolt it through. You can actually take a bolt and bolt it right through the actual kindorf if you want, and nut and washer on the back with a nut and washer in the front, or, which I like to do it because it looks a lot cleaner, I like to get me a spring nut, a couple of spring nuts actually, and lock it in like so. See where I'm gonna put it, and then I'll just lock it in with a bolt, a short 1-inch bolt, 1.5 inch, 3/4, whatever, and that's it, and it'll line up like so. See where my spring nut is? I'll put it right over. I'll have another one down here and another one on the bottom, okay? Or whatever the case may be, and then I'll bolt this down to the floor, or whatever the case may be, okay? Now, let's take this apart. Now, that's for that. You also have, as you can see here, your regular small 2-hole, okay? Same thing. Maybe you just want to do this, okay? And you wanted to connect that like so, or you wanted to connect it, your kindorf, and you wanted to just do something like this, for whatever the case. So, another little tip I wanted to show you. Let's just say that we're building this here off the wall, all right? And let's just say you have a long all thread and you need to actually tighten this nut, and you don't want to do it manually with a spanner or whatever the case may be. They have now these long shaft nut drivers that you can buy too. They're pretty expensive, but I know when I had first started the trade, someone taught me how to actually make a long nut driver out of EMT. So out of 3/4 EMT, you can actually make a nut driver for your 1/2 inch nuts. Okay, you can do that, or you can use 1/2 inch EMT for your 3/8 nuts. And what I mean by that is you would actually take a nut Okay, like so. Get it in there nice and even. Right about there. Take your hammer and hammer it in till it's all the way inside, completely flush. Okay? After you're done with that, okay, you can actually do the same thing on the other side. Hammer in a nut, okay? Preferably if you can do two, that would be even better, all right? But all you need is one. So after you're done hammering in both sides, okay, on one side you want to put in either one or two, whatever, but you leave it inside, okay? You leave it inside, and what you want to do is, let's just say that your nut is in there already. You want to thread in a piece of all thread, you know, not too long, all right, with another nut, just like so, with the washer. And after you get it threaded in, you know, we want to thread in at least a good, 2 or 3 inches of all thread inside. You want to tighten it up really good, okay, like so, all right. And now on the other side where you put that nut inside, you want to take that out. Now you done made, this is gonna be your drive where you're gonna put in the chuck, okay. You want to even put sometimes maybe even 2 nuts in here to lock it up really well. You could even add a lock washer too, just to make sure it stays on, okay. And on this side, you already beat in the hex nut so it has the shape of your 1/2 inch nut, and you just made yourself a long shaft, nut driver that you can actually tighten up these long all threads with. Okay, even though now they sell them up to 24 inches and all that, but sometimes you need something longer than that, And I know I've made my share of those long EMT nut drivers. You can even get creative like I have, and if you have a welder on board somewhere in your site, you can have them tack welded your threaded rod onto the EMT, and after that it's not going nowhere, okay. And that's just a little tip, a little trick, and I'll actually do one for you. Hopefully in one of these parts I'll actually make one for you so you can see how you could actually put it together. Thank you. To use, like I said, is you can use your spring nut inside, all right, and you can wash it with a bolt and lock it in, and that makes your rack strong, and you can continue on and add on to your actual support. Now another type of spring nut is you have this, which has the spring for 1 5/8 inch, okay. This locks in place, the spring holds it up and it pushes it up against the actual lip, just like so. This one here, because you also have Unistrut that's 3 inches deep, that would be for this one, okay. This brings the whole spring nut up to the surface of the lips of the Unistrut and holds it in place, okay. You also have one for the 3/4 size, which is basically makes the spring just a lot smaller. You have all different types of these spring nuts. You have one without the spring, you have one that has a cone, whatever the case may be. Lastly, you have these washer nut combo, square washer nut combo, okay? How this operates is like so, okay? You take it, let's just say you wanted to make a rack. This comes in handy, that's already done, and you want to do a rack somewhere in between from the rack that you have and above. You can actually take this, okay, and you would be able to just put another rack on top, okay, and you can make an actual rack out of all threads that are already there, okay. And what you would have to do is you would actually have to cut this in order to slide them in, but you would be able to lock it in place with this because it has threads too, Okay, if you can see, I'm not sure if you can see that well. It has threads. Okay, both of these sides have threads. And you would need to hook it over, and this little rivet here, you would put it through the hole, take your pliers, channel locks, lock it in by pushing this together, and it locks it in place. Okay, it will lock it right in place in here, and you put one on the top of your kindorf, and you put one on the bottom, and now you just made a rack in between a rack. Okay, without having to go through the hassle of installing another threaded rod. Okay, this comes in handy, it really does. All right, combo square washer nut. Okay, these come in handy. All right, and that's the last of my material. I think I've had a lot here. Okay, so with that said, pretty much I covered there's a lot more material, don't get me wrong, that you would be able to use to make racks. But for the gist of it, I covered a lot of what you would be using out there. Let me just give you a small example on how to actually put a rack together with this material. Okay, let's do it with the 3/8, and I'll use the 3/4. Like I said, you have 3/4 inch and 5/8, okay, and you have one bigger than this, that's 3 inches. You also have different configurations. You can actually have them, you could buy them 10 feet, 20 feet, you could buy them, welded together, one back to back. You can have one, welded together on the side. They have so many different configurations, it's ridiculous, Anything that you want, they could actually make. Now, let's just put one together, okay? Now you have your oil thread here, okay? You would go and grab, now for the sake of the video, I'm gonna grab a 1/2 inch square wash because I don't have the 3/8 one, okay? So in that case, what I would do is I would use a nut, okay? Put that through. Put this through, get a round washer on the bottom, and that would be one side, okay, and you would tighten it up. Also, don't forget, when you're building this up in the air, you would put the rods on first. After you install your drop-ins or your expansion seals, you would throw your rods on first. So your rods will be sticking down first. Okay? Then I'm gonna grab another threaded rod. You grab the nut. Okay. So basically, I don't have another nut on me. Alright, so basically the same thing you would copy on this side. Okay, and that would be your rack. That's how you would build it. Alright, with your other threaded rod on this side. Okay, and you would use your saddle washer or your other type of saddle washer, or like we just used now, square washer. Okay, so that's basically it. One other thing that I did forget to show you is you have your square nuts, which in some situations I like to use these. Basically, it works almost the same way as a spring nut, only it doesn't have the spring. Works the same way. It's good in some applications, when I can't really use a spring nut, and I'm able to, I'll use a square nut. You can throw it right inside the actual spring, the Unistrut, okay? And if you need to catch it from if you're building, basically I use this if I'm building off of another rack. I'll just throw this inside the rack that's already done. I'll catch I'll catch the threaded nut from the bottom over here. And of course I'll have a nut here as well. Actually, let me do it so I can show you. Let me do it the right way. So, let me grab this. So let me show you what I mean. Let's just say I want to build another rack off of a rack that's already existing. Okay? And I want to drop my threaded rods down from them. Well, I could just throw a square nut like you just seen in there inside the rack that's already there. Let's just say that this is the rack that's existing. Okay? And I can catch this all thread from the bottom there. I can catch that nut, thread it in. Alright, I'm already caught now. Now it's already in there, I have it on. Now all I have to do is tighten up this nut. Okay. Let me tighten this up. And I have my threaded rod supported, very well supported. It's not going anywhere. Off of an existing rack. Okay, basically it. That's how I would use that. Okay, so you have your square nut too. There you go. That's your square nut. Alright, and very good support. There you go. And then you can put another rod on the other side too, depending on how wide you want your rack. And that's it, done deal. You got yourself a rack. Okay, now it just takes your imagination on depending on how you want to use this Unistrut. Okay, it just, you have to be able to think outside the box and see, you know, plan on how you want to build your racks or support for a box or whatever the case may be. You know, you can actually, like if you wanted to mount a panel, you can mount this onto the wall and mount your panel onto the kindorf. You know what I mean? It makes it that much more sturdy, you know, and easier to just work with. And you know that your panel is going to be mounted good. All right. So I have some clips that I want to show you, which I'll probably show you in the next part. I just wanted to show you this part here. This is just an introduction to show you the material. Okay, and the next part I'm going to show you, probably in this part here, I'm going to show you some clips, but we're already going into, 40 minutes. So I think I'm going to break it up here, and I'll show you another part with some video clips of some of the work on how we put together this Unistrut. And yeah, so thanks again. Thanks for watching. Keep hitting me up with your video requests, and again, this is Holmes Law. I'm out.